Chapter name: A Letter to God. Author: G.L. Fuentes. Characters: Lencho, Lencho's wife, Lencho's children, God, postman, postmaster, postmaster's employees, and postmaster's friends. First, let's see the difference between a hill and a valley. Hill is a naturally raised area of land not as high as mountain. It's shown in the picture 1. And valley, a low area of land between hill or mountains, typically with a river or stream flowing through it. So valley is the area between hills or mountains. The house, the only one in the entire valley, sat on the crest of a low hill. From this height, one could see the river and the field of ripe corn dotted with the flowers that always promised a good harvest. So, the story begins by describing a house. This house is one and only in the entire valley, and it is located on the top of a small hill. A hill which is comparatively smaller in height. From this height, one could see the river. From this low hill where the house is located, it gives a view of the river and the field of corn. Here the flowers symbolize that the crop is healthy. In the image 2, we can see the flowers grown on top of the plants. So these flowers symbolize that the crop is healthy. The only thing the earth needed was a downpour, or at least a shower. So downpour means a heavy rainfall and shower means a light rainfall. Despite the healthy crops, rain is needed for the growth of corns. Throughout the morning, Lencho, who knew his fields intimately, had done nothing else but see the sky towards the northeast. Lencho is a farmer. He is experienced and has a deep knowledge about his field. He is watching the sky towards the northeast direction, hoping for the rain. Now we are really going to get some water, woman, is said by Lencho to his wife. The woman here is none other than Lencho's wife. Maybe he saw few clouds in the sky and hoping that it would rain. He tells his wife that it might rain today. The woman, who was preparing supper, replied, "Yes, God willing." The wife was preparing supper. Supper means a light meal eaten in the late evening. While cooking, she responds, "God willing." Yes, God willing. So in Hindi we say, हाँ भगवान की कृपा हो. The older boys were working in the field while the smaller ones were playing near the house until the woman called to them all, "Come for dinner." The older sons were working in the fields while the younger ones were playing near the house. The woman calls everyone for dinner. It was during the meal that, just as Lencho had predicted, big drops of rain began to fall. Everybody sat for dinner, and during the dinner, while they are eating, Lencho's prediction comes true as the rain starts. In the northeast, huge mountain of clouds could be seen approaching. The air was fresh and sweet. Lencho could see dark rain clouds coming towards them from the northeast direction. The air feels refreshing. Due to the rain, it smelled sweet. The man went out for no other reason than to have the pleasure of feeling the rain on his body, and when he returned, he exclaimed, These aren't raindrops falling from the sky, they are new coins. The big drops are 10-cent pieces and the little ones are 5. So, Lencho was filled with happiness. He went out to enjoy the raindrops on his body. He then came inside and said to his family that these aren't raindrops falling from the sky, they are new coins. Here, Lencho compares the raindrops to money. So, let's put it in this way. Good rain is equal to good harvest, and good harvest is equal to good money. So, the big drops are 10-cent pieces and the little ones are 5. So, Lencho compares the big drops to 10 cent and the small raindrops are 5. The raindrops are money falling from the sky. With a satisfied expression, he regarded the field of ripe corn with its flowers draped in a curtain of rain. Lencho was happy and worry-free now. His expression said it all. He said ripe corns and flowers are draped in the curtain of rain. It means they are fully drenched in rain. One could see water on the flowers and the leaves. But suddenly a strong wind began to blow, and along with the rain, very large hailstones began to fall. The weather changed drastically. Strong winds started to blow, hailstones began to fall, and it rained, all three together. These truly did resemble new silver coins. The hail actually appeared like silver coins to Lencho. They looked shiny, round, and silver in color. The boys, exposing themselves to the rain, ran out to collect the frozen pearls. The boys went out in the rain to play and excited to collect the hailstones, which is referred to as frozen pearls here. It's really getting bad now, exclaimed the man. So Lencho realizes that the storm is getting worse and he hopes that it should not last longer. It does not pass quickly, but the weather did not change. The storm did not pass. For an hour, the hail rained on the house, the garden, the hillside, the cornfield, and the whole valley. So the hailstorm continued and started to affect everything. The hail fell on the house, the garden, the hillside, the field, and on the whole valley. The field was white as if covered with salt. So the hail completely covered the field, making it look like a layer of salt. Neither the soil was visible nor the greenery. The wind and the hailstorm was so severe and powerful that it was enough to destroy everything. It left the land bare. This indicates that there would be no harvest this year. Lencho's soul was filled with sadness. Lencho felt sad. He was filled with sorrow seeing his plans ruined completely. His hard work got wasted. His time, money, everything. Nothing was left. When the storm had passed, he stood in the middle of the field and said to his sons, "A plague of locusts would have left more than this." After the storm ended, Lencho walked around and surveyed his field. When he reached halfway, he stood there and told his children that a swarm of locusts would have caused less destruction than the storm. The hail has left nothing. The hailstorm left absolutely nothing in the field. This year we will have no corn. Lencho realized that due to the hailstorm, his family would have no corn to eat or sell. That night was a sorrowful one. The entire family was in despair. They lost their source of income. All our work for nothing. The family had worked hard in the fields to grow crops, but the storm destroyed their efforts in a short time. There's no one who can help us. They had no one to ask for help. We'll all go hungry this year. Lencho was dependent on the harvest which got destroyed. And no harvest means no money to survive. But in the hearts of all who lived in that solitary house in the middle of the valley, there was a single hope: help from God. Being in that difficult situation, Lencho and his family had believed in something, and that is God. They had faith that God would help them out of this situation. Don't be so upset, even though this seems like a total loss. Remember, no one dies of hunger. They believe that nobody dies of hunger, nobody starves, and tries to comfort the family members. That's what they say, no one dies of hunger. Even though they were all worried about the money and stuff, they are trying to reassure themselves by saying, yes, nobody dies of hunger. All through the night, Lencho thought only of his one hope, the help of God, whose eyes, as he had been instructed, see everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. So, Lencho was worried throughout the night and could not think about one thing. His only hope was to ask help from God. And Lencho was being told, and he strongly believed that God sees everything. He knows what is right and what is wrong. Lencho was an ox of a man, working like an animal in the fields, but still he knew how to write. Lencho is compared to an ox which is strong and hard working. He is literate. Lencho knows how to read and write. The following Sunday at daybreak, he began to write a letter which he himself would carry to town and place in the mail. The following Sunday means after a week on Sunday, means the upcoming Sunday. In the early morning, he started to write a letter and went to town to mail the letter by himself. It was nothing less than a letter to God. It was a letter to God. God, he wrote, if you don't help me, my family and I will go hungry this year. I need 100 pesos in order to sow my field again and to live until the crop comes back because the hailstorm. It was a letter to God. Lencho wrote to God that if you don't help me, my family and I will go hungry this year. Wrote the whole incident on a letter, and on the envelope he wrote to God, and no other information of the receiver was mentioned. He wrote to God on the envelope, put the letter inside, and still troubled, went to town. At the post office he placed a stamp on the letter and dropped it into the mailbox. He went to the town to mail the letter, and at the post office he bought a stamp and sticked it to the envelope and dropped it in the mailbox. One of the employees, who was a postman and also helped at the post office, went to his boss, laughing heartily, and showed him the letter to God. So, a postman who worked at the office, he was an employee and he also helped at the post office, finds a letter addressed to God This is something unusual and shocking thing to him because nobody writes a letter to. Never in his career as a postman had he known the address. So, seeing this unusual letter, he takes the letter to the boss, who is the postmaster. He laughs out loud. The postmaster had never seen a letter addressed to God in his career. The postmaster, a fat, amiable fellow, also broke out laughing, but almost immediately he turned serious and tapping the letter on his desk commented, "What faith! I wish I had the faith of the man who wrote this letter," starting up a correspondence with God. Here, the postmaster is described as a fat and friendly man. At first, the postmaster laughs at the letter, finding it funny, but he quickly becomes serious. And then, tapping the letter on the desk and thinking about the letter, he realizes that the writer of the letter has great faith in God. He is impressed by Lencho's faith and he wishes he had such strong belief in God. He is impressed to see that Lencho's belief he can directly communicate with God as if God were a person. So, in order not to shake the writer's faith in God, the postmaster came up with an idea: answer the letter. So, the postmaster does not want to break Lencho's faith. So, he thought of an idea to respond to the letter, pretending to be God. But when he opened it, it was evident that to answer it, he needed something more than goodwill, ink, and paper. The postmaster opened Lencho's letter and realized that just writing a reply is not enough. He required something more than ink to write, a paper to write on, and goodwill refers to name, addressing it. So Lencho had asked for money, so the response requires more than just words. But he stuck to his resolution. He asked for money from his employees. He himself gave part of his salary, and several friends of his were obliged to give something for an act of charity. So, the postmaster collects money from his employees, gave a part of his own salary, and his friends also contributed. Here, the phrase act of charity means that they donated money as an act of kindness. Nobody will ask for that money in future from Lencho, as it was not a debt, it was just a charity. It was impossible for him to gather together the 100 pesos, so he was able to send the farmer only a little more than half. Lencho was asked for 100 pesos, but the postmaster couldn't collect the full amount in the letter mentioned in the letter. He managed to send Lencho a little more than half, means more than 50 pesos and less than 100 pesos, something in between. So let's see how much money the postmaster was able to collect in upcoming lines. He put the money in an envelope addressed to Lencho and with a letter containing only a single word as a signature: God. So, the postmaster placed the money that he collected in an envelope and addressed it to Lencho. He also placed a letter in the envelope in which he wrote a single word, and that is the signature of God, to make him believe that the money came from God. The following Sunday, Lencho came a bit earlier than usual to ask if there was a letter for him. So, Lencho had faith that he would receive a reply from God. He came earlier than he usually used to at the post office to check if the letter was arrived from God. It was the postman himself who handed the letter to him while the postmaster, experiencing the contentment of a man who has performed a good deed, looked on from his office. So, the postmaster gave Lencho the letter with the money, and the postmaster was watching from his office. He was feeling satisfied and happy because he had done a good deed by helping someone who was in need. Lencho showed not the slightest surprise on seeing the money. Such was his confidence, but he became angry when he counted the money. So, Lencho was not surprised to see the money because he had complete faith that God would send it. However, when he counted the money, he became angry because it was less than what he had requested. God could not have made a mistake, nor could he have denied Lencho what he had requested. Lencho believed that God could never make a mistake. He was sure that if he had asked for 100 pesos, then God would have sent exactly that amount. Immediately, Lencho went up to the window to ask for paper and ink. Without the slightest hesitation, Lencho went to the post office window and asked for paper and ink to write another letter to God. On the writing table, he started writing. He was not able to put together his thoughts and was struggling to write what was going in his mind. When he finished, he went to the window to buy a stamp which he licked and then affixed on the envelope with a blow of his fist. So after finishing the letter, Lencho bought a stamp, then he licked the stamp and sticked it on the envelope with a blow of his fist. You can see it in the image too. It's known as sticking it with a blow of a fist. The moment the letter fell into the mailbox, the postmaster went to open it. So, the postmaster, who had previously read Lencho's first letter and arranged for the money, was curious. He picked the letter and opened the letter to see what Lencho had written this time. The letter said, God, for the money that I had asked for, only 70 pesos reached me. Send me the rest, since I need it very much. So Lencho believed that God had sent him the full money, but only 70 pesos reached him. So he asked for the remaining money, emphasizing that he needed it badly. But don't send it to me through the mail because the post office employees are a bunch of crooks. Lencho. So what he writes is, don't send the money that he requested by mail, but send me the remaining 30 pesos directly. Lencho wrongly assumed that the post office employees had stolen part of the money. He wrote in the letter to send him the remaining 30 pesos directly and not through the mail. So the irony here is that the people he mistrusted were the ones who helped him.